In Nigeria, some things never change. For decades, the Academic Staff Union of Universities has embarked on countless strikes that have aided in crippling tertiary education in the country. Regrettably, almost all the industrial actions embarked on by the union have to do with inadequate funding for Nigeria's public universities. The union keeps insisting that it wants higher education to be better funded and lecturers given improved conditions of service. Government, on the other hand, continues to make promises and enter into agreements with ASUU that it is incapable of keeping due to paucity of funds. Meanwhile, both sides refuse to contemplate wholesale reforms and alternative funding options for the universities. Now joining us to explain why ASUU has resorted to yet another strike and why Nigerian university lecturers are afraid of exploring other higher education funding options is Dr. Adelaja Odukoya, ASUU Zonal Coordinator, Lagos State. Good morning, Dr. Odukoya, and welcome to the Morning Show.
Good morning, Dr. Abati.
Good morning. Well, Doctor, what is the matter this time? I have an idea,
yes,
but it will be nice to hear directly, as they say, from your end. What are the grounds of this rollover strike, as the ASUU president has described it? And is there any engagement with the federal government already?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Abati and the Arise team. It's unfortunate we need to go to through this part all over again. Like you rightly asked, the issue dated back to 2009 when we signed the federal government ASUU agreement. That agreement of 2009 was supposed to have been renegotiated in 2012. The renegotiation was delayed by the federal government until 2017 after a number of strikes by ASUU. When this started, unfortunately, we had in place the chairman, the leader of the federal government team, who is fixated about a particular orientation about how he thought things must be done, and that made the negotiation highly problematic. To cut a long story short, as at May 2021, that 2009 agreement was finally conclusively renegotiated, and that document submitted to the federal government. What was expected immediately was that the federal government should look at the renegotiated documents. If it accepts totally what is there as it's contained in the document, the government will endorse it, and the process of implementation will commence. If the government has any issue with any part of the agreement that I felt is not satisfied with, the government is supposed to have referred back to us. We go back, discuss the issue, arrive at a consensus, and sign the document and implement. Implementation commence. But as we speak, the federal government has refused, has neglected, and as in a way of speaking, just set aside the document without doing anything about it. And it interests you to know that the documents, when we talk about renegotiation, one of the key things there is, one, the condition of service of academics. Since we, like I said, that the last time that was done was 2009. By implication, therefore, the last time there was an increase in terms of the salary and emolument of academics in Nigeria was 2009. That was 13 years ago. And of course, we know the exchange rate in 2009. We know the cost of living then, and we know what it is here. So our member technically have, in the last 13 years, been subsidizing university education in this country. Within that time frame, even the minimum wage has been renegotiated twice. As we speak, even just about a week, 2 weeks ago, at the federal level, you see a situation whereby, what do we call it? travel allowances was increased from 12,000 to 25,000 and things like that. But nobody seems to be bothered about what happens to the university lecturer. And we say we are in a global knowledge economy. We have other issues like the IPPIS, which is actually a violation of the autonomy of university as contained in that document again. And again, through this salary, we are saying that does not even take us to the door, talk less of taking us home. It's further being eroded by IPPIS because no professor is even sure, no lecturer is even sure about what you are earning now. IPPIS is just what it likes and things like that. We have the issue of underfunding and of state university and the proliferation, even at the federal level, and sundry other issues that are in the public domain.
I mean, do you have a word at this point for the students who are caught in this vicious cycle of fruitless negotiation, strikes, back to the table for negotiation, which turns out to be fruitless, strike once again? What do you say to the students?
Yeah, thank you very much. The first thing to say is that lecturers are equally fathers. We are parents, and we have students in these same universities. And again, as a matter of fact, one of the pains we have every time, and that forces us not to go on indefinite or forces us to actually accept memorandum of understanding or actions, promises that government, from experience, we know they are not likely to actually fulfill, is because of this same concern. And given the kind of salary we earn as lecturer that have remained at where it was for 13 years, we can, as lecturer too, cannot afford to have our children sent abroad. So our students are equally in the same university. But that said, we must realize the fact that when we speak about university education, we're talking about a kind of knowledge system that is universal. What we produce in Nigeria must meet up to global standard, and that's why you have this global ranking, and that's why you speak about global competitiveness. So it's unfortunate that has to happen, but it's in the interest of the student, because ultimately, what is the essence of producing a product that when you take to the market, nobody's interested? And again, when we equally speak about the pains of the student, we must equally realize that as lecturers, we find our meaning, we find our bearing, we find our relevance when we relate and compete with our colleagues globally. So when we go on strike too, the implication is that we cannot go on research, we cannot do our collaborations, we cannot go on conferences, we have to come back and teach all these courses. Again, you see, when you see government talk about academic allowances as if they are doing lecturers a favor, what is actually at stake is that at a point in time, we identify, and of course recently too, NUC said we only have 100,000 lecturers in the Nigerian university system, given and with over several millions of students in the system. So it was supposed to be a stopgap whereby the government will be able to compensate lecturers that are being overworked so that they can recruit. But unfortunately, government has not done that. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that we are overworked. We only need to go on vacation. We need to rest. We need to recreate. We need to regenerate ourselves. But when we go on this strike, because we have to make up for this period, we can equally not do that. So it's a pain for both of us, lecturers and students. And that's why the government needs to be concerned. But unfortunately, it seems we have a government that has a pathological hatred for knowledge and is not interested in what is happening in other places in the world, where people are not bothered so much about material resources, but are investing heavily in the human capital development. And when I joined this, I was connected to this program, I heard Dr. Abati saying rightly, and I think that's very important, that Africa must wake up. That is very good. But if Africa must wake up, Nigeria must wake up. And if Nigeria must wake up, Nigeria must focus seriously on education. And if Nigeria must focus seriously on education to do what Dr. Abati is saying in terms of developing our technology, we must focus on our university education, tertiary education. And if we must do that, we must pay lecturers the right remuneration, provide the condition of service that will make them to do cutting-edge research, and provide the kind of funding that will make equipment and things that will make them globally competitive, like any other part of the world. And of course, it has been demonstrated. Nigerian academics hold their place in the world any day, anytime. But we could do much better if the government is doing the right thing and it's actually living up to its responsibilities.
Okay, Dr. Odukoya, let's step back a little bit. You will recall that after the memorandum of action that was signed, I think December 2020, the Minister of Labor of Nigeria, Senator Chris Ngige, made it clear that the federal government had been able to meet ASUU halfway. I think it was after that that a visitation panel was set up that went around the universities. And I think that it was out of that process that the federal government, in collaboration with ASUU, began to take a look at the proposed University Transparency and Accountability Solution, UTAS, which ASUU was proposing as an alternative to IPs. And then also, end academic allowances was also something that Senator Ngige, the minister, pointed out money had been provided for. But isn't ASUU also part of the problem? Because with regard to end academic allowances, there was this report about the national leadership of ASUU accusing the Vice Chancellor of Obafemi Awolowo University of not supporting ASUU to have access to the end academic allowances. And that became an issue in Ife. Whereas the issue, as was pointed out by supporters of Professor Ogunbodede, was that ASUU members did not want due diligence. They just wanted to ask for money and the allowances would just be paid without any verification. What do you say to all of this? Because ASUU cannot at one level be talking about transparency and accountability and at the same time playing games with the facts. I'm not playing the devil's advocate. I'm just pushing the facts out to you to respond to.
Thank you so much. I'll start from the last on Ife. The good thing is that my zone, under my leadership and some others neighboring zone, were at Ife. So I'm abreast with the issue at Ife. The issue is at Ife is about a vice chancellor that it is, permit me to say, is actually, I don't want to use any insultive word, that is actually playing double standard. Trade unions are registered by law, and and to exist and to operate, you must be a legal entity as a trade union. What you call conwas in Ife, which Professor Ogumodede confessed he was one of the creators in the approach to the last struggle. That's what they have made the university system to be vice chancellor in Ife. It's not a registered trade union. Unfortunately, too, he was part of those people that created CONWAS. Yet, as we speak, he will tell you he's the highest paying member of ASUU. That is, he's still a member of ASUU and he pays his dues. So he's playing double standard. And that speaks so much about the kind of person we are dealing with. You are journalists. Go to Ife and check the facts. In the process of doing all of this, he insisted on doing an audit. ASUU, and after this program, if I look at my office, I might be able to give your guys here some of the documents. People submitted, or I send it to you by this thing. They submitted our computation for to the vice chancellor for vetting. What he even told us was that it won't take more than 3 days, 2-3 hours. It's just like doing WAEC, and when you have lecture, when they just do some test check, like you just take some distance samples and things like that. It was with them for 3 days, and they did the due diligence. As a matter of fact, it will shock you that those people, and I won't blame them, in the audit section of Ife that were asked to do, could not even understand the computation, because the computation was actually designed and agreed to between ASUU and the federal government. Our members equally need to actually pull them through. So it's not true that ASUU is not actually submitting itself to due diligence or is against transparency. That have been done. What is in Ife, what's happening in Ife is a frustrated vice chancellor who have tried to destroy our union in the university have failed, and at the tail end of his administration, he still wants to compensate his members, those who he has left astray. So that's the issue about Ife. The facts are there, and like I say, I can send it to you. I think I can easily send it to you by WhatsApp after this lecture. Then again, when we go back, let's go to the issue of Ngige, the federal government, EAA, this thing. You see, the truth is that all ASUU struggle since 2009 is on one issue: renegotiation of the ASUU federal government agreement. In that agreement, there are about 3 or 4 component issues. The first one is renegotiation of the condition of service, which has to do with our condition of salaries, wages, remuneration, and things like that. And let me tell you this historically, that in 2009, what happened before that agreement was signed was that the government set up a team that went around African countries to actually see what is happening in their universities. And they came back with what we call this African average. Based on the African average, 2 tables were set up as a basis of paying lecturer. Table A and Table B, or you say Table 1 and 2. The Table 1 is for the short term because it was mid-budget section around maybe June, July, and things like that. So the argument was that it would be impossible to implement the Table B, which is the actual table that should be used. But in the interim, let's use this until the next budget cycle. If you won't believe me, we have not left that temporary table since 2009. So that is on the issue of condition of service. So the condition of service has remained the same thing since 2009. It has been part of all our struggle because, like I said, we have only been struggling for one thing: renegotiation of that agreement. That has never been done. So whatever Ngige is telling you in Spain is about this agenda about tokenism. The second one or item on the in the renegotiation is revitalization of university to make them globally competitive. Of course, you are in the system and you know how decadent our university has become in terms of infrastructure and everything. So in 2012, when the struggle was high, the federal government under President Jonathan sent around this country another visitation, another team to do the need assessments, because what we were saying as lecturers then, as students, looked strange. It was as if we were speaking German. They could not believe our universities are what we are painting, the picture we are painting. Under the then President Jonathan, there was a tour around the Nigerian universities, and when they came back, they were shocked. And the government itself put in place that to put Nigerian university on a global footing, we need within the period of 5 or 6 years a funding about 1.3 trillion. And the government committed itself to doing that over a period of time with the first release of 200 billion, which was the highest that any government has released to date. And you can see the impact on our university or public university in this country. So this government that came in 2015 has only released, even with the last one that DJ is sadly making noise all about, it's all over 50 billion, which they have been this thing. It is not even up to what the predecessor, the government before this one, released just at once. So what are we talking about? The EAA have explained beforehand. The EAA is not even supposed to be an issue. It's supposed to be a stopgap. It's excess workload. People are being overworked. People, just about 2-3 weeks ago, one of our colleagues in Benue State University was to conduct an exam, just went to his office, was on his table, and that was the end. He fell and died. Our members, when we go to NEC, their branches will have reporters as much as 10 people, 5 professors, lecturers dying. We are overworked. Let me tell you, we don't want EAA. Our members don't want EAA. Employ lecturers. Don't overstress us. That's the issue. So, what has they paid? They have just released 21 billion as evidence that the EAA has been mainstreamed into the budget. As we speak, in Unilag alone, from our record which has been audited when they do this forensic audit, the Unilag alone, Unilag lecturer alone are being owed 9.9 billion as EAA. So what are we talking about? It's mere tokenism. And again, IPPIS, the UTAS has been tested. What we were told is that it will be tested. If it is successful, it will be implemented. We have gotten reports, they said we scored 85%. 85%, is it not successful? They said until we score 100%. But the IPPIS they are using was not even ever tested. It cannot even compete with UTAS. And from the report released by a government agency, a government functionary, the Auditor General of the Federation, IPPIS is a monumental corruption. And government is wasting money on it and nothing is being done. So these are the issues.
Well, you just really showed
Thank
the
you.
human face, the tragic face of this issue, which is essentially about funding. Now the issue of fuel subsidy has been shelved for the next 18 months. But what is your take when that matter, becomes topical once again during the next administration? Are you in support of removal of fuel subsidy so that the funding can perhaps go to your universities? That's my first question, then I'll ask you a second one.
Thank you. Before I rush to the fuel subsidy, I left something out. Visitation. Yes, the visitation panel was set up since February last year. Reports have been submitted. As we speak, government has refused and have equally not done anything. And again, don't forget, we insisted that the visitation panel should be set up because we want transparency in the system. Government, for reason best known to it, has not done anything. Fuel subsidy. You see, the problem is this. As ASUU is a member, is an affiliate of NLC, and our position is not different from that NLC. First and foremost, as a union, we are against the regulation. But most importantly, you can't be talking about fuel subsidy. The government promised us they are going to fix the refinery. Why has the refinery not been fixed? We are subsidizing fuel because we have a refinery at home that are not producing. So let them fix the local refinery and start producing locally. The issue of subsidy or no subsidy, which is a monumental fraud, will not be there. That is our position.
I also wanted to ask you secondly about, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. The Minister of Labour, Dr. Christine Gige, has said that what you are embarking on is illegal leave, that he's seen no official communication from you. And you know that Section 42 of the Trade Disputes Act requires that you notify the federal government officially with 15 days notice before any strike. What is your response to that?
Thank you so much. The Minister of Labour is a medical doctor. But one will have thought that with the years he has used in that ministry, he will now be very much familiar with how the labor union, labor movement, and the labor system operates. Our last strike was not called off. It was suspended. So there's no reason, there's no basis for any application. It's only when we have called off a strike, we are calling another strike, that what he's saying will be obtainable. We only suspended our strike, and we have just resumed what we suspended. Thank you.
Okay, just before we round up on this, some state governments have told state universities and their staff and their lecturers that they cannot go on strike. They cannot be part of this rollover industrial action by ASUU for one simple reason. The state governments are claiming that it was a federal government ASUU agreement and that no state government was part of that agreement. What do you say to that?
Thank you very much. It's so unfortunate that we have governments and political functionaries in this country that are always charitable with the truth. Yeah, it is true that education is on the concurrent list. But again, in all negotiation with ASUU to date, there's always a representative of state governments on the team of the government, because what we're talking about is federal government, is public university. And again, it's equally sad that this state government that have turned university to constituency project. For example, Lagos State have just created an additional 2 or 3, Delta State and things like that. No, they don't fund this university. They rely on TED Fund, which is a product of ASUU struggle and a federal institution to fund those institutions. Go to all the state universities. For example, let me give you where you are very familiar with Ogun State University, for instance. You have just maybe 1 or 1.5, I won't even call it 2 because it's incompleted, out of all the physical infrastructure in that university that you can call the infrastructure put in place by that state government. Most of these state universities, at best, you call them TED Fund or needs assessment universities, because they depend on the products of our struggle. The money we get from this struggle to actually fund this university. That's why they create and keep on mushrooming university all over the country. And that's one of the things we have put before the National Assembly in cooperation, in association with NUC, is that any state government that wants to create any university should have 30 billion on grant to fund that university. They rely on our struggle, they rely on our sweat, they rely on our gains to fund their universities. So what they are saying is not true. They can't eat their cake and have it. Let them fund their university. It is a struggle of ASUU that have kept those universities going. They know that. And that's the truth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Odukoya, for joining us on the morning show.